pretty damn good coming into stage 2. Both of these teams with some kind of, I feel like it's just been too rocky. It's been too hard to actually cement either of these teams as the name for OS right now. But Guz, when we look at the Knights, do we feel like they're ahead of the Chiefs at the moment?
I think it's pretty clear that they are. The Knights did have that rocky result against Elevate, that 3-7 loss on Theme Park, but since then they've really been able to bounce back, not here in just APAC South, where they flipped it and 7-2'd wildcard in the previous Playday, but also in OCN, where they've been getting some really positive results against some probably, I guess, quote-unquote tier 2 teams, which is going to be a good confidence booster for them heading into the day, that they can back themselves in, play their game, and produce some results. I guess it's looping that back to your question, right? Are the Knights better than the Chiefs? At the moment, I think it's very difficult to say they aren't. They're performing better. I think that they're not having the same, or experiencing potentially the same sort of hangover that the Chiefs are as a result of attending the major in the first stage. And of all the OS teams, at the moment, honestly, probably the best chance, I think, to make the top 2.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's a bold statement, Xenox.
There's wildcards.
Yeah. I don't even... you know what, I'm not even going to start talking about wildcard yet, because we've got the Chiefs up on the line that we need to probably focus on more than wildcard. Their game comes a little bit later on tonight. But Xenox, give me some kind words here for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Give me some words of motivation.
I do have kind words for them, actually. Hope is something that I do have. Look, and obviously, even if they do win this game and they get all 3 points, it's still only a 6% chance, but it's a chance nonetheless. And these guys have the quality. When we look at some of their recent form, though, obviously, prior to, say, their last 2 games, it's just all red. They hadn't won a game basically since April, which is a disaster. They didn't win a game all through May or June, but as soon as the clock struck midnight, the 1st of July, they get a 7-0 over Kraken in the Oceanic Nationals. And it was the way they won that game. And obviously their loss against Direwolves, like, they played well. Like, that was just 2 teams that looked at their best, say, you know, all the way back to sort of stage 1, the 2 best teams from APAC South, and they just went head to head. So I think if the Chiefs can harness that power, the form that they've been able to sort of regather over the last week and bring that into this game, I think they're more than capable of taking down the Knights, who, you know, for all, you know, retrospect, have been playing well without playing maybe amazing. Obviously, they lost to Elevate. They got destroyed by Team Bliss back in OCN a couple of weeks ago. So they're not exactly flawless. While they have won their last couple of games, I still think the Chiefs at their best can definitely take them down. Well,
the stars of the show have already been introduced, so I guess it's time to set the scene. Where are we going? What vetoes are we off to, gentlemen? It's not going to be Bank, surprisingly. It is not going to be Bank, and I am so thankful for that. But it looks like we are going to be heading over toward Clubhouse.
Can I change my result?
Yeah. You know what?
Late?
Just quickly ring up Prod. Just be like, hey, Mr. Brendan, can we potentially make that happen? Guz, what are we thinking as we head to Clubhouse?
I'm not going to make comments. Xenox sounds like he's pretty confident on this video. Maybe you should take it away.
You know what, Xenox? Yeah, you got to double in here.
Well, a map that used to be the dub house with the Chiefs a long time ago, back when probably half this roster wasn't even on the roster. No longer, though. Clubhouse has not really been a map where they've had a whole lot of success recently. You do have to go all the way back to the APAC playoffs, where they did take down Dam1 and they did take down also Ground Zero in the Oceanic Nationals, but that was like back in April. That was a long time ago. In fairness, it's probably gotten a little bit better than where it was a while back. Like a couple of months ago, they had this really weird long losing streak on Clubhouse, which they have been able to, you know, sort of overcome that. But it's still a map that I have questions. And hopefully for the Chiefs, kind of like Knights last week with Border, where we were like, whoa, they're not going to win this. And then they just came out and absolutely demolished Wildcard. Maybe the same could happen here. Maybe the Chiefs have been working on this.
Guys, he's got a lot of questions, but do you have the answers?
Well, I look at the record for the Chiefs, and it's so difficult to make a case for them. The only map they've really won, even as far back as the major, was actually very recently against Kraken. It was a 7-0 in OCN. As much weight as you want to give that, different maps, so it doesn't really matter. You look behind that, a lot of red for the Chiefs. They have been on an awful run heading into this second stage. I probably agree with Xenox that Clubhouse doesn't really paint any better of a picture for them. The Knights are going to play, I think, really well here. When the Knights are switched on and playing the structure that we know they can, I fear them on Clubhouse. So, not to count the Chiefs out, but this should be a very solid victory, I think, for the Knights.
Jeez, I think we're all on that bandwagon at the moment. The Knights looking like the better team heading into Clubhouse. Devin Mandy to run you through all of the action. Also, hello and welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Look, this should be a good time. Mandy, how you feeling? I know both of us were a little bit sick coming into today, but I know I personally am very keen to just give it all a crack.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into Clubhouse. I feel like this is like the most classic OS rivalry on Clubhouse, slow and steady, you know, like it can't get more OS than this, I think.
So Chiefs and Knights, two teams that have been at the very top of the Oceanic region in the past. Both teams having qualified for majors before, but both of them are going to have to work extra hard for a shot at qualifying for Berlin. We are halfway through stage 2, and the chances of either team making the major really rests on getting as many points as possible. This game has plenty of stakes behind it.
Yeah, and I think that's a story for the entire stage, right? Every single game matters, every single point matters. But for the Chiefs, this could spell disaster. This could mean that their run to the major is over. It almost is at this point. I think there was a statistic released on Twitter recently that even if they win this game, the chances of them making to the major is only 6%. So for me, I'm looking at the Knights to show up here and to try and push their chance for the major even further. First of all, we go off with a Finker ban. That is fair enough. Finker has been a staple in the meta, really excellent on the entry, and 4 sets of grenades actually with Maverick taken off as well will make it very hard to clear power positions like rafters, try and get nades behind the box on the basement, that type of thing.
It also does leave Thatcher in, so a lot of the time the way the meta's evolved, you end up seeing a lot of that Maverick play and Thatcher doesn't really come into the question, but now as a result of keeping Thatcher in, you're going to need your Thatcher plus 2 hard breaches on basically all of the objectives, and that's already 3/5 of your composition down. Like you said, not a lot of nade operators left. We're probably going to see a lot of Ayana. I wouldn't be surprised if we even see some Nook, though perhaps the Nook a little bit less useful, her gadget avoiding cameras, when we've had 2 camera operators on the defense band in Valkyrie and Echo.
Yeah, I think the Thatcher is a really important point to touch on here as well on Bank. It's not often these days that we see Thatcher slip through the veto, but Chiefs aren't even going to pick it yet. Of course, they have the chance to re-pick it, whereas the Knights, they will take us to CCTV and Cash, and they will be picking the Bandit as well. So we will see that minigame get played on the CC wall, something we haven't seen in quite a long time, actually. And with the Thatcher gone, it's about finding the timings on the attack. It's not just an EMP these days that's good enough for the Bandit trick, since you can put 2 or 3 Bandit charges on a wall at once, right? So we're quite interested to see how this minigame plays out, and with the lack of nades, I feel like it's very tough to attack this bomb site.
I think that Bandit Juggle is going to be a lot of fun. Back in the day, we used to see people counter the Bandit Juggle by using Zophia's concussions, which would cancel the animation, but there's all kinds of ways that you can then counter that. You know, for example, the Azami is present. She wasn't around back in that meta, and not only could you block the drone hole next to the breachable wall in CCTV with an Azami, you could also I mean, there's so much that you can do with Azami. You can play them here on rafters as well, as we can see Sage doing, and that's going to make it even more difficult to clear this power position.
I actually really like this use of the Kiva barriers, because typically once that wall has been opened here on the CCTV breach, the part that you're most exposed to is of course the 90 section and then the one near the stairs. But if you have that Kiva barrier there, you're protecting yourself from the garage door while you play that area and try and take the fights in the sort of middle section of rafters. Here we go. So Sage has actually blocked off both parts now, so he can safely play more around the 90 area even if that wall gets open. Now we can see that the combination of the ace charges on both walls, we can see the little marks left on the wall where he was able to chuck both ace charges on both walls, and they can't both be tricked at the same time by Stigs, so there we go, the walls open nice and easy for the Chiefs.
Pretty nice there. As about a minute has passed so far, the Chiefs have a bit of work to be done, but at least they've checked off that big CCTV breach, which without Maverick can be a little bit more difficult. Fortunately, Chiefs are no strangers to using the Thatcher, and like you said, that combo of double hard breach works quite nicely. But next, Chiefs are going to have to worry about Quiz, who's already been shooting drones, roaming around the main stairs. Worthy's going to clear that up. Ethan pushing from the Jacuzzi balcony with Boydie in tow from Logistic. It looks like Chiefs intend to take some control of construction and open a second breach onto the opposite objective.
And I think this isn't a bad option for the Chiefs as well. Because of the lack of nades, clearing rafters will be very difficult. Boydie's the only one currently carrying grenades, right? And so they've decided to opt for a conside push, a sort of pinch in tandem with the breach as well, now starting to get control of Master, while Digital can use his final exothermic charge on the wall to get into the bomb site.
Stigs going for a Bandit Juggle, and he is going to land that one. Stigs A big play there with the Bandit. Man's been on fire recently in terms of fragging out, but he's shown he's not just a pretty face and a bit of tight aim. He's also got the ability to use that utility to help seal off one of those avenues for his team. And now there's no more Selmas left. No more exothermics either, so no more hard breach.
And that really cuts off this into the bomb site as well. Worthy trying to find Stigs in this power position, stuck on the wall now that's been remained closed. Sage will find the second one, but only 35 seconds left, and Quiz with the flank will really shut down the Chiefs here.
Yeah, it leaves it just on Digital now, and he does not last very much longer at all. The Knights, in the latter part of that round, they certainly retained control. It all started with Stigs making sure that that construction into Cash Wall stayed solidified. And following that, it was really just a lot of ones. Chiefs falling into the meat grinder. And of course, a flank to be the cherry on top for the Knights. And they start strong on their defense the first round. Which, look, I think a fair number of people would have put money on Chiefs for this game. I think the majority of us predicted Knights. But got a fun Xenox fun fact. The Knights have beaten the Chiefs every single time they have played each other in 2022. The Chiefs has not got a single BO1 map win against the Knights. They've played each other 3 times, once in Oceanic Nationals, once in APAC South State, and once in Oceanic Championship Series. And Knights won all of those games. And to be honest, I know, I feel like that's just likely to continue. Knights are in top form, Chiefs not so.
Yeah, it seems like it. It seems like the Chiefs over the course of, I suppose, this year, although they found so much success, although they went internationally, it doesn't feel like that ton of success and the experience has carried over here into their local league either, whereas the Knights, with the changes they made to the roster and with the changes, they have a much more fleshed out strat book now. They always bring along innovation, new types of things. It just feels like their progress has been a lot stronger. Now we can see Sage once again starting with the Izami here on Rafters, the same Kiva barrier in the middle of the rafters, protecting him from that garage door as the Chiefs, they start to make their way to CCTV.
Interesting for Sage. He's going to find himself in a bit of a prickly position in just a moment now that the CCTV breach is open. Quiz there to support. Not sure he got spotted. Oh, bit of a whiff. Does not manage to shoot the drone. Sage can't either. So that is a lot of info now for Chiefs as the Gemini of Ethan also gets a bunch more.
I'm a big fan of that Kiba barrier being there because it gives Sage the opportunity to try and contest the breach whilst not being exposed to the garage door peak where he could get just cut off from while his eyes are turned to the breach, that type of thing. I really like the added pressure that brings, and the Chiefs instead will try and move their entries onto the other side of the map. Josh now will contest Ethan as he hops into the building, but Styx will be able to trade him back with the C4.
Yeah, good job from Stiggs to make sure that kill did not go untraded, but the Chiefs recompose and finish off Quiz, who was still roaming upstairs. A valiant effort from the Knights on that roam, but credit to Chiefs, they played it really, really well.
And with only 3 players left as well, it'll be very tough to hold out the entirety of the bottom floor site. This bottom floor site is quite big. There are lots of entryways and options for the attackers to be able to execute onto this site. You need to hold on to blue, you need to hold on to bottom main and the hatch if they decide to go for the drop. That's essentially 1 entry for each player, and that's very tough to play with only 3 anchors left. The Chiefs, now they have lots of options. They have 1 more exothermic charge, which will dedicate to the...
Oh, no.
Is that an electrical trick? Oh, it doesn't go off. That would have been really big from the Knights as well. That would have cut off a big point of entry. But by opening that moto hatch, it seems like the Chiefs, they are going to want to go for a church type execute.
Unfortunate for Juicy. He threw the electric claw just too early and it got EMP'd. Unfortunate for him. But now Chiefs have numbers advantage. They also have so many avenues onto the site. They're starting to get vertical as well. It's going to come down to how strong they can be on this execute. That's really where this round will be told.
Boydie now sending a nade through, will try and clear position through the double door, doesn't seem to connect, and the Chiefs will have to start making their execute in a church.
Sage underneath the kitchen hatch, trying to seal up some vertical game. There's a strong position. Juicy unable to deny the breach on the main wall. He is now feeling that pressure as Styx goes down. It's just 2 players left from the Knights, but the Chiefs do not have a way into the bomb site yet. That is Sage for 1. And it's getting very, very close. Juicy with the double from Church. Boydie is upstairs and he has no chance of getting to the site and taking out these 2 players in time. What a round from Juicy.
The Chiefs, In my opinion, I feel like there was a big missed opportunity on that triple wall. I really liked what they were going for. The Knights, they were down numbers. They could only hold on to so many things. So by going for Church and by opening up the motor hatch and by opening up the triple wall, I feel like that would have been a good execute for the Chiefs if they had used the exothermic charge on the triple wall rather than using the Hibanas. Like, it makes me wonder, why wouldn't you just use 4 Hibana pellets on the moto hatch and then make a bigger entry hole into triple? That would have opened up the site a lot more, but the Chiefs, I feel like they created their own funnel in that attack there and gave the Knights that win, essentially running through doorways, trying to play the refrags, didn't end up working out in their favor, even though there were less Knights players on the board.
Even using the Hibana on the church wall, like to the side in the corners where players are more likely to hide. Even just face checking the corner where Juicy was playing. For some reason, Chiefs had no clue that anyone from Knights was in what is probably the most common spot to play on that side. So, I don't know, yeah, you could put it on the Chiefs. I'm just going to say Juicy, nice for him to see him stand up, and he's now actually the kill leader in this game as well. Already on 4 kills. Not a player that we often speak about a lot in terms of fragging out. He's typically one of the most support players on this roster, and particularly when Stiggs has been stealing the limelight recently. It's nice to see Juicy get a little bit of the love as well.
Now the Knights, they've decided to take us to bar and stage. A bomb site that we've been seeing now more than ever before seems to have come into fashion while the Chiefs start to clear across the building. By spawning on the garage side, we can expect them to go for a sort of garage stock type take. Voidy now opening up his entry hole into CCTV, try and clear across that top floor, or maybe just clear into Con and make sure they can't peek the hatch, and see what execute that the Chiefs can get from there.
Now, I'll admit, I haven't seen a hell of a lot of this site. It just doesn't get played nearly as much as any of the others ever since it was introduced, or I should say reworked, where stock was actually removed from being part of the site. But I'd say, you know, this is a decent site on the map, but it's not quite as strong as, say, your basement, I think, in a lot of scenarios. And so it does rely a lot more on these roamers, and that's Josh now. He's been flashed, actually, from that CCTV breach, and Chiefs are starting to move on in. There goes a nade over the top of him. Another one comes his way. He managed to dodge it, but he has been droned. He's going to have to feel the brunt of 2 people. Finds the first kill, can secure it. And here's Quiz for the trade. Ethan's found a double meanwhile. And that puts us back into a 3-on-3.
Quiz now stuck in a very precarious position.
Oh,
Nothing
no.
to stop these flashbangs from covering him full wide as Ethan
my
makes a
God!
vault over the top of the railway, but he gets team killed anyway. Oh, team kills bouncing. Actually, that's a Chiefs member going down now, leaving us in the 2-on-2. The Knights, what a scrappy hold, but in my opinion, working out in their favor. Only 2 players left for the Chiefs. Actually, both with hard breach, so can get onto the wall here, but what are they going to do after that to try and get the bomb to go down?
There's just so many things could have gone better for Chiefs then. They look disjointed. A team kill, I mean, yeah, decent play from Bouncing to jump the railing, but Worthy was caught off guard, and as a result, the Chiefs forfeit the advantage that they were just about to gain. They got the opponents a trade. And now, in a 2-on-2, it's really hard to plan. That's only 1 player on your team who can cover. And you can see Worthy's got no drones. Digital's got 1, but it's already up, probably watching a flank somewhere.
And we just saw on the site through that drone, those Kiva barriers are in such key positions. Here on the bar, making Juicy's position so incredibly strong. The breach can't be opened because there's a mute jammer, and the ways in for the Chiefs are just dwindling, and they'll have to funnel through some doors. 15 seconds left, and they have to win this 1v1.
Knights know that they have the advantage, and they can easily close it out from that. The Chiefs had no choice but to take these fights. And Knights in the advantage. They make a clean sweep of 3 different bomb sites. At this point, Mandy, it makes you wonder whether we might even see a 4th.
That would be exciting. I mean, we seem to have a tactical timeout or tech timeout being taken right now. Okay, that's confirmation, tactical timeout for the Chiefs. Fair enough, you are down 3-0 at this point, and the Knights seem to show prowess on the entire world. I think we just saw a flash of gym and bedroom there, Dev. So I think it is truly going to be the world tour for the Knights. And I'm a huge fan of the way that the Knights are playing this map so far, Dev. We constantly see the Azami. We constantly see power positions that are not only strong in their own right, but made even stronger, magnified even by the Azami Kiba barriers. That Rafters position is always so much stronger when the entire Rafters is blocked up. We saw Juicy essentially using one of the Kiva barriers as a shield on the bar to stop Digital from being able to enter into the site and play that 1v1 to his advantage. And I'm a big fan of the way that the Knights have been playing this map so far.
For the Chiefs, though, they have had their eyes on the prize for such a long time, and the prize for them, the goal for them, has forever been making those international events. 2021 was a cornerstone, a milestone year for the Chiefs, where they finally became the dominant force within Oceania. And they even, by the end of the year, managed to dominate to some degree the APAC South region as well. Just behind Elevate, they were considered by many to be the best team in the region. They made it to the major in Sweden, then at the start of this year, they also made it to the major in Charlotte. But now everything has gone, gone downhill. I was going to say something I probably shouldn't say on broadcast, but I think that any illicit words that you might want to say would probably be pretty appropriate when describing how the Chiefs have been playing recently. And it's so frustrating, having seen their rise to now see their fall.
And I feel like in Siege it's just so difficult to keep a dynasty going, if you will. I just think that the nature of this game is it's so changing. The meta always changes with new operators, especially with things like the Azami being put in. That's a huge meta change as well. And players, I suppose, a change of players, a change of pace. It's just so hard to continue going here in Siege and continue your prowess. Now the Chiefs will start to make their attack onto Gym and Bedroom. Like we said, this is the 4th bomb site for the Knights, so showing that they have a very diverse strat book here on Clubhouse. They can play anything and everything, and they seem to be playing it very well. Josh and Quiz once again holding on to this cash position.
Good map control so far for the Chiefs, but the real brunt of this pressure will have to come down on Cash, which is where you've already got 2 Knights players holding on to this extended map control hold. Now, Ethan is a bit infamous for going downstairs and doing these vertical nades. I actually saw him commenting on Twitter earlier, so I can't remember who he was talking to. But
Ethan, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember
who
it was that Ethan was talking to, but he was just saying, how prolific the vertical nades have become on this site. Don't need them, though. Instead, he can just hold the angle as Josh is forced down the red stairs. And honestly, just a great pinch there from the Chiefs. They really put the pressure on site with the Selmas, force Knights to retreat while holding off their retreat.
And yeah, perfectly played. Ethan only taking a little bit of damage will make the Chiefs 1 man up now. A very clean attack here in this early round, but it seems like they'll be forfeiting this side of the map as the rest of the Chiefs start to rotate over to the Jacuzzi side of the map. Bouncing now taking his EMPs over, and I think it's Digital using his final exothermic charge on the single con wall as well, creating more entryways for these Chiefs players into the building. And now they will start to figure out how they're going to hit the site, how are they going to flush out these final few anchors and try and get an in onto the bomb site.
Well, this is the first time that the Chiefs have found the opening pick and it has not been traded back. So they now have an advantage that they haven't had the previous 3 rounds that they have lost, but time is ticking away and Styx is below with a C4.
Oh no, and Juicy though, he will find one with the shotgun, quickly traded by Boydie here into logistics, and the Chiefs now will start to snowball their way into the bomb site. Quiz now left in the 90 hall, 25 seconds left to go, and the Chiefs with 2 men up.
Big advantage for Chiefs. Quiz feeling that pressure, but he does take down the player on the gym window. Sage feeling that pressure, needs to reload the SMG-11. Quiz might be able to keep Ethan at bay on the main stairs, but Boydie is putting that diffuser down. Oh no, Sage, that C4 was not quite it. The spray could have been what he needed to take out both the planter and the guy covering, but it was not it. And the Chiefs finally come away with their first round.
That was a pretty impressive round from the Chiefs. I feel like that's the methodical, calculated Chiefs that we know and love. They spent that early round setting up that pinch, setting up that hammer and anvil kind of flush where the utility went in and Josh was forced into the hands of Ethan, and to collect that kill and then spiraling out of control, that man advantage, playing the refrags into logistics, it all compounded through the rounds, and the Chiefs were able to take away what is actually an incredibly clean round, incredibly clean win off the back of that tack timeout. Now, we'll have to see if they can replicate that success in the next 2 rounds. Bringing it up in a 3-3 on Clubhouse, I feel like is well and truly beyond the pass mark here. Clubhouse is quite difficult to attack. It's very big. There's lots of steps. There's lots of mini games that you have to play to be able to get into the map. And so the Chiefs, I feel like they'll be very happy with that round win.
The thing is, though, like, Knights don't have to go back to that bomb site that they've just lost. In fact, they could only go back to bomb sites that they previously won and still come away from this half 5-1, which would be a death sentence for Chiefs. No two ways about it. Like you're saying, this is a hard map to attack, so if Chiefs only came away with 2 rounds, I think that would be okay. It wouldn't be great. I think, to be honest, like looking at these operator vetoes, I feel like it's pretty balanced, maybe slightly defender favored, particularly because of the Azami. But I don't know, I think that Chiefs really should be gunning for 3 here and settling for 2. If they can't get their second round, it'd be very grim indeed.
And now once again we can see that the Chiefs starting to play the minigame here on the CC wall. Stiggs on the other side as Worthy puts down the first thermal charge to the second. Stiggs is only going to get time to trick 1, and there it is, the second wall being open now for the Chiefs. Nice and easy, but the impact trick does come out, so it's not an amazing breach for the Chiefs, just a line of sight.
Was that all the way from Rafters by Sage? If so, that's quite a throw, quite a toss. Credit to him. It was either that or it had to be, because he's the only one with impacts. Yeah, wow. Credit to Sage. Pretty good throw there. That does really make it a bit awkward for the Chiefs. I mean, Worthy's got 1 more Selma left, and he better hope that it detonates. Now, he wouldn't know whether Sage has got more impacts to trick his Selmas as well.
And on top of that, I think Digital has just used one of his exothermic charges on the Con single wall as well, so that's even less hard breach available to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, once again, we can see them pivoting over to the other side of the map, seeming like they're going to go for a more pinch clear from a Con side onto the map instead. Quiz now being made aware of it will pull out to his teammates as he falls back through the main stairs.
I wonder what the play is here for Chiefs, rather. Are they going to be satisfied with just a line of sight on the Kennels wall? Because you don't necessarily need to fully breach open the wall. That said, the line of sight's on the left side, which makes it a little bit more cumbersome to try and contest and try and take out these players at top red and cash. And for now, it looks like Chiefs have fully vacated the premises. They're looking to really focus on this construction attack as they take master control.
I think that they can get away with this line of sight so far because the main point of entry that they will want to make is the one going into Con. Last time Stiggs was able to trick the wall, but this time Ethan will connect a nade onto Stiggs. That wall won't be tricked, and Worthy will finish him off with a Selma charge onto the wall instead. So the Chiefs, this is much better progress. This is an in on the bomb site that they didn't have last time they tried to attack it. I think we've just seen Sage patch up that hole on the CC wall as well. Meanwhile, Josh gets the run out on the person on the CC wall, and so suddenly Knights, they can retake here into server, and they can try and prevent this Chiefs rush.
Big pick, another nade kill for Chiefs, but don't undervalue that pick that Josh found earlier from the runner. Here comes the Chiefs though, the collapse, as there's just no time left, and Josh, he plays it patiently. From the top of the main stairs, he might be able to deny this plant if he times it to perfection. He does! It's Josh who steps up, takes the round into his own hands, and Ethan cannot enter the breach. What a play from Josh. And another round for the Knights.
Perfectly played by the Knights. I feel like in that round they understood exactly what was going on and they knew, okay, the Chiefs' attention is going to be divided. Right now they have lots of players on the other side of the building trying to take control, trying to get this wall open. So there's only going to be one Chiefs player here on the breach holding out. Let's just double contest him, one with the Kiba barrier, Sage trying to divide his attention. Meanwhile, Josh gets the run out. And by clearing that player on the breach, that frees up server for the Knights to be able to play as a position that they couldn't have played if that breach was open and if a player was pressuring from there, right? And because of that, they were able to really stunt the Chiefs execute into the bomb site, and eventually running out of time meant that the Knights were able to win out that round perfectly. And I just think that was all because of that mid-round decision making from the Knights, which is just perfectly probed from them. Now they can go down into Church and Arsenal. Last time we saw the Chiefs attack this, it was pretty dire. They tried to attack it in the last 15 seconds of the round, flooding through one doorway, and the Knights, I'm looking towards them for this 5-1 half.
Yeah, it's starting to look like it. The way that so many little things add up for the Knights, and that just creates favored positions in the late round. Like another tiny little facet last round that impressed me was, right, Stiggs, he only bandit juggled one Selma on the left side of the wall, but what that meant was there was less Selmas overall, and Chiefs never got a full walkable breach in, which allowed Josh to play at top red and deny the plan at the end of the round. And so just so many little things add up together. And when you have all these tiny things throughout the round adding up for a favored end of round, and players on Knights who know how to play those favored situations, you're just always going to have the Knights come out on top.
And I think that's really the story of both these teams, not just this matchup, Dev, but constantly we see that the Chiefs always struggle in the mid-rounds. They always have struggled to be able to convert what they've done in the early round through the mid-round and convert it into a good late-round execute. Whereas the Knights, we've seen, have had a lot more innovation, a lot more exciting mid-rounds because they create all these strange new positions that they can play in with the assistance of the keeper barriers, with the assistance of whatever it might be, maybe some Marooney gates and some mute jammers upstairs. Now that they've gotten one pick, they're all going to fall back onto the bomb site, and the Chiefs will have to re-drone through the first 2 floors of the map just to check that there are no Knights players there. That's heaps of time wasted with no trade.
I think that Knights have identified here that if you give Chiefs time, they're actually going to spend a lot of it setting up, and they're still just going to execute in the last 15 seconds. So Knights would rather take that man advantage into this, no doubt, last minute execute that Chiefs will go. Even with Josh on low HP, doesn't matter that much.
No, it really doesn't, because like you said, the Chiefs, they don't convert this mid-round. They really take their time and they do their due diligence no matter what. Juicy now will chuck his final Selma charge onto the kitchen hatch, but it doesn't seem to matter anyway, as the Chiefs will go for a church triple type of execute. Once again, no exothermic charges for the breach. Worthy shoots out the C4 in the air. Oh my goodness, saving his life. That was a sharp shot. EMP will go down and the wall will start to get open. And Juicy, I think that's a bit too late, my friend.
Far too late, and also in a position where the explosion for Selma will destroy the claw. Now Juicy has to go big. He did it before from this position, but he's far more exposed this time around. He actually goes for a vault, tries to escape, but the Chiefs do not let him do so. The triple wall is now barely a wall any longer. The Chiefs have minced it up, and that has been their in back into this round. But Josh still has an angle from blue, and Sage still has all kinds of keeper barriers to play behind.
20 seconds left. One more keeper barrier for Sage as well. He might be able to use it to block up one of the holes that go behind the default plants as well. The Chiefs, they will have to make their execute work. 15 seconds left to go. Oh,
and Stigs can just play on the keeper barrier. This is Azami in her natural habitat. What a wall bang there from Stigs as well. Sage has opened up the short rotate, and bada bim, bada boom. That is a dominant 5-1 half for the Knights.
Just so well played throughout the Knights, through that entire game. Every single step of each round felt calculated, Dev. In the early rounds, they were able to play out the trades, but they didn't waste time. They didn't loiter around and give the Chiefs more numbers, give them more picks or anything like that. They fell back and they immediately start setting up for the late round. Sage, he continuously generates those keeper barriers as the round goes on. So being able to place them where he needs to for that execute to come out, we saw him place the final one on the breach, meant that the Knights were perfectly set up for that execute to come through. And it feels so adaptive as the round goes on, and we'll have to see if the Chiefs can replicate that. They're not going to bring the Azami on their particular hold, but instead they'll bring along something a bit more traditional. They'll bring along the castle, the mute as well for this top floor roam, and see if they can delay the Knights to go through the entire map.
This is, I don't know, reality's starting to hit here. This is a pretty dominant scoreline. Even if this is defender-sided, I can't imagine Chiefs winning this for the full 3 points, which, by the way, they need. Do we have the stats? You mentioned the percentages. I'm going to see if I can find it. I believe it was Wrath. It's Sprabuni, actually. Sprabunny. On Twitter. Absolute legend.
I believe it's 6%, I think, for the Chiefs, if they are to win this
if they win this?
I can't remember if it's if they win
Okay.
this. I think it is.
I have it. So, if
it.
Chiefs get a regulation win, they have a 6% chance of going to the major. If they get an overtime win, which that means Knights get a single more round, that drops down to 2%.
Wow.
And then if they lose in overtime, it's a 0.1% chance. If they lose in regulation, which is what's looking most likely here, 0.01% chance that Chiefs make the major. It's not happening. It's just not happening.
That's unreal. And that's why for me, when I suppose when I turn to the Knights to try and win out this game, I think that's exactly what they need, because for the Knights, if they were to win out this game, that really expedites their process going to the major, right? This is a team that they thought they were going to be contesting with at the beginning of the season. The Chiefs are a well-renowned team, but now getting the 3 points off this, I feel like that really boosts the Knights' chances. Juicy now starting to make his way through dirt, pressuring out some of the anchors on the site as he'll call to his teammates. There's only one anchor on the site, as Bouncin actually finds the first kill onto Sage through the Logi hatch. The Knights' execute here seems to be very divided, very split up, and I'm not sure if I rate this, Dev.
Yeah, it's a couple of strange things going on, and one of them is the fact that you got 2 Chiefs players in Logistic. Now, Logistic's a great position. You can deny anyone playing in Kitchen or on the Kitchen hatch, but Knights might be able to play off of the fact that Juicy is now in the objective. If this is a 1v1, he could certainly win it, but he needs to be careful. He goes for the ADS, does a bit of damage onto Boydie. Is the rest of the Knights going to be able to get into blue and assist? Boydie's going to chuck out another gas babe. Now remember that Chiefs have the man advantage, but it could slip at a moment's notice, and it does! If the Knights can get just one more pick, they have evened this up. It's just Juicy and Josh left as the smoke goes out and the plant starts to go down.
The plant is going down, but not only that, the hatch is closed in Kitchen as well because they went straight through dirt, straight through blue. And so this post plant and retake is going to be very difficult. We can see a Chiefs player going upstairs trying to retake vertically, but what is the point when Josh can just sit in the hallway and try and collect some of these kills?
Josh has to be the playmaker here. Juicy, his options are limited. And he's now been down. It's all on Josh in the 1v2. Both Digital and Worthy are lit, but that diffuser, they have to cross for it. A good spray from Worthy, but it's all on Digital now to try and clutch it up for the Chiefs. Otherwise, Josh will bring Knights onto match point. Digital's got absolutely no clue, and that is it for the Knights. An ace for Josh, and that puts them onto match points.
Wow, so well played from the Knights. They identified the weakness in the Chiefs' hold, and that was that they weren't recalling their roamers quickly enough back to the bomb site, right? So there was only one player sitting inside of the back small box inside of Arsenal. Juicy was able to try and 1 versus 1 him, while the rest of the Knights collapsed in on blue. I actually made the mistake there. Josh did actually get the kitchen hatch open, and that's how he was also able to get into the bomb site and assist Juicy, and playing that post plant perfectly, moving away from that vertical and trying to retake Church instead is exactly what Josh needed to do to win the round and find the picks from there instead. And the Chiefs, it feels like they're not in sync, Dev, whereas the Knights, once one person has an idea, they all jumped onto it, which is exactly what we saw in that attack round, right? Whereas the Chiefs, they were disjointed, they didn't come back together, they weren't playing together, and even though that retake was very winnable, they weren't able to close it out even with the man advantage and just a Monty messing up with their time in the corner of Church. So the Knights, they look amazing right now in this matchup, and I don't see a way in for the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's been pretty grim for the Chiefs, to be honest. They've had some tight losses this stage. They went 7-8 against Direwolves, but they've also had some pretty dominating losses. They went 7-2 and lost to Fury. Is it possible that they could have an even more grim scoreline here against the Knights? Is a 7-1 on the cards?
Well, I think so. I think the Knights, they'll just want to close it out here. Now they'll start to attack onto the CC site instead. And the Chiefs, I mean, this time they're bringing the Izami as well. This is quite exciting. I love seeing the Izami, and one impact trick even will go out onto the bottom of Garage to try and make this entry hole a little more tough for the Knights. Now they'll start to play the minigame onto the breach. A different approach seems to be coming out for the Knights though. Instead of using 2 Semmel charges, they're going to use a Thermite charge and an Ace charge together and try and see which one Digital is going to trick. He'll trick the Exothermic charge, but the Ace charge will go off anyway on the left side of the wall. Impact trick to follow, but that one doesn't connect, and so that is an entryway in for the Knights.
It's actually very similar to what we saw the Knights do on their own defense. Juice is actually going to go for an ambitious Exothermic. On the back of the flash with a sound covered, that does use up a lot of the hard breach that the Knights had in their arsenal, but it does mean that they have a really nice large breach on that Kennel's wall. Something that the Chiefs didn't boast when they attacked this bomb site.
And by getting both the left side and the right side open of the wall, now the Knights have options for their attack as well. By getting that right side of the wall open, it's much easier to do a con side take, which is where I think some of the Knights players are starting to drone out now. We can see Sage's drone inside of Logistics, right? And so getting that pinch in on this side of the bomb site is made a little easier. Meanwhile, if they do want to do a garage clear, getting that left side is open because it prevents the player from playing at like the stairs part of the rafters or the 90 part of the rafters. And so the Knights have a lot of options, and the Chiefs, they'll just have to reconsolidate all their anchors back onto the site, play it slow, and see what the Knights are going to do. The element of surprise is really on their side.
Josh now gets into con. Looks like the intent is to get a little bit of a breach here on the comp wall. Still 2 EMPs available. We'll look at this information that Juicy has got for Knights on site. Of course, Juicy is the one with the diffuser, so where he goes is where the execute will eventually come about. But the Knights are so close. That's a C4! But Josh on the back of that's actually going to go deep right into sight, and Quiz also takes down Digital. It is all over. And now the Chiefs' hopes rest on Worthy in a 1 versus 5. But the Chiefs are but a shadow of their former selves. The Knights have taught them a lesson in this game. A 7-1 victory in this OS derby. But it was never in question. The Knights rip away 7-1.
Every step of the way, every part of the round, the Knights were able to be just one step ahead, one part of the plan earlier than the Chiefs, playing the micro battles perfectly, winning their ones. Mechanically, they were so strong today as well. We really saw Quiz even. We haven't hyped him up as much recently, but I think he really showed up in that game big for the Knights, and it goes to show just how much progress that this team has made throughout this stage. Being able to take down a giant like the Chiefs, someone that was so dominant last year and in stage 1, is a big win for the Knights, and they're going to be very impressed by their progress.